All right, everybody, I might kick off. So I firstly want to welcome you all to this first session of our Real Life for Life webinar series. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we are meeting on today. I'd also like to pay respect to the elders, both past and present, and offer my acknowledgement and respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are present here today. So my name is Rashmi and I work as a Community Relations Coordinator based in the Metro Sydney team. On behalf of myself and the rest of our working group, we welcome you to this first Real Life for Life webinar session, talking about Real Life for Life during COVID-19. We're facing some unprecedented times, and the purpose of this webinar series is to allow you to join in and to listen to our panel of experts, ranging from the Real Life for Life Steering Committee and the Cancer Council New South Wales leadership team, where we will talk all things about Real Life for Life over the next few months. Each session will be on a different topic, and I'll let our first speaker officially introduce today's session. Now, it's really humbling to know that we've got around 62 people joining us today on this webinar session, so thank you so much for joining us. We've got people all across New South Wales, either as staff, committee members, and teams joining us as well. I also just want to let you know that today for the session that we are going to be recording this session, and we will be making this link available to you shortly after. So please turn off your videos if you do not want to be recorded. So now I'd like to introduce you to our speakers. So first up, we have James Butler. He's a member of the Remuneration and Nomination Committee, chair of the Consumer Research Review Panel, chair of the Real Life for Life Steering Committee, and he was elected to the Cancer Council New South Wales Board in December 2014 and re-elected in December 2017. James has been an active volunteer for Cancer Council New South Wales for almost 20 years, holding roles including the chair of the Hills Real Life for Life Committee, chair of the Western Sydney Cancer Advocacy Network, and as a two-time cancer survivor, he understands the need to influence decision makers around key issues that have an impact on people affected by cancer. James has also been a business owner for 25 years and is an active consumer representative on cancer services committees in the Western Sydney Local Health District. James will be doing the official introduction on today's session, talking about Real Life for Life during COVID-19. James will also be closing the session and introducing our next webinar session. After James, we've got Grant Plekas, who's a community lead for Southern Communities. Grant has been involved in Real Life for Life for 19 years, attending many during his time. It's in his blood. Grant's journey with Cancer Council started as a volunteer for the first 5 years of Relay, and then he landed his dream job as a Relay coordinator from 2005 to 2010. And in 1 year, he was leading 10 relays for the Southern region. Grant returned back in 2014 to work in the far south coast area and has been here ever since. He heads up the Southern Communities team based in Wollongong and loves the amazing impact our events have in his communities, both large and small. Grant also leads our organisation's Relay for Life working group. Grant will be talking all about our Relay for Life initiatives that we've got coming up over the next few months. After Grant, we've got Rory Alcott. He's the Director of Community Engagement. Rory is responsible for engaging communities to Cancer Council New South Wales. This includes promoting and delivering prevention, advocacy, information and support programs, along with developing opportunities for people across New South Wales to contribute and support Cancer Council through volunteering and fundraising. Rory joined Cancer Council in 2007 and previously held a number of advocacy and community engagement roles, with his most recent prior role as Senior Regional Manager for Greater Western Sydney before taking up the Director role. He's been involved in Relay for Life since he started at Cancer Council. He has attended and supported many events since his days in the advocacy team, where he was a member of the Relay for Life task force, and continuing through to now as Director of Community Engagement. Rory will be leading our Q&A section with our questions and answers. After Rory, we've got Caitlin Feldman, who's the Community Lead for Northern Communities. Caitlin is very proud to work for Cancer Council and has been with the organisation for 3.5 years. In the role of Community Lead for Northern, she is based in the Byron Bay office. looking after Cox, Byron Bay and Tamworth offices and all the communities in between. Caitlin has attended 8 Relay for Life events across Northern communities so far and looks forward to many more. A fun fact about her is that she loves ocean swimming and is obsessed with finding turtles in the bay. Caitlin worked on the Hope at Home initiative with the Byron Bay team, and the concept has then spread like wildfire. She'll be talking more about this initiative after Rory. So that's it from me, everyone. I'd like to now hand you over to Natalia Archer, who'll be talking through some housekeeping and will be managing the technical side of today's session. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I really hope you enjoy today's session.
Thanks, Rashmi. Hi everyone, my name is Natalia. I'm from the Parramatta office. I am going to be your tech operator for this webinar, and I'm just going to run you through some housekeeping before we get started. So you would have noticed that everyone's been muted, and this is just so we don't play a game of guess who's speaking and talking over each other. There is a chat box for those of you who's familiar with Zoom. If you're not, definitely have a look around and find that chat box. I'd like to ask everyone to maybe just, say something, introduce yourself, say what relay you're from, what team you're from. You can ask questions, but as we've got quite a few things to go through today, we might not be able to answer all the questions. They will definitely go on to the next session. Just another friendly reminder that because it is recorded, if you don't feel comfortable, feel free to please switch off your video. Otherwise, feel free to keep your video on. And if you wave if you know where your nearest toilets are. If not, please find your nearest toilet. Feel free to get up and go anytime. Just a friendly reminder not to take your laptop in there with you. Okay, so with that, I would like to introduce everyone to Cancer Council's favourite Irishman, James Butler. Take it away, JB.
Thanks, Natalia. Hi, everyone. I'm James Butler, Chair of the statewide Relay for Life Steering Committee and a relayer for Sydney's Northwest. All of these relays have been the traditional relays, albeit with their own individual flavours and messages from the local areas, all with recognition and celebration of our survivors and carers, the special guests of Relay, all with a beautiful hope and remembrance ceremony. Relay for Life has brought to the fore the long journey faced by all of those people affected by cancer, and at the same time celebrated the great achievements that funds raised at Relay for Life have meant to the work of many great researchers. Relay has saved many lives because of this research. We want to keep doing that. This year, 2020, has thrown up many challenges for all of us in Relay. We can't have our traditional relays because of COVID-19, but even COVID-19 can't stop Relay. Cancer doesn't sleep or stop for anything. We know that we relay to celebrate the lives of our cancer survivors and those on the cancer journey now. And we also remember those lives we have lost to cancer. Our great staff at the Cancer Council are now combining with our steering committee and our great volunteers in creating new ways for us to keep relaying. So I'm inviting you to keep in touch through these webinars. So those of you who might like to consider new and innovative ways for your own relay in these difficult times. You will be hearing now from Grant Palakis, and he will tell you a little bit more about the great initiatives that are planned for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, James, and welcome everyone. It's really exciting to be here for our first webinar, and COVID has thrown some curveballs our way, but for us to come together like we are now, and I'm looking 75 people in a room with us now, it's brought a great opportunity for us to be able to idea share and keep the passion that we all have for relay continuing. COVID, when it first started to have an impact across our relays in the earlier days, you know, we were trying to move as fast as we could as an organisation to make sure that we had some initiatives that would be able to see us still participate in relay in some way, or still engage with our participants of relay. So in such a short time, it was amazing to see our first virtual relay come together. And Corowa Rutherglen did that and led the way, not just nationally, statewide, nationally. It's internationally recognised now due to them being the first virtual relay that has happened across the world. And for them to be able to do that and lead the way and put their community on the map says so much. They set a target of $35,000, which they eclipsed, and that in itself is just amazing. The short turnaround and time that they were able to pull that together is very much leading the way. And on the back of that, we've got some of our other relays that are due to happen in this season, looking at their opportunities that they're going to be able to engage with their relay community and have a virtual relay as well. So our first one this weekend will be Sutherland, who are looking at a shortened format and trying to capture all the great components of their relay. They have a very active relay community. They are the nation's biggest relay as of last year, which again is something that our state is very proud of and our organisation is very proud of. So no doubt they will set a really high standard with their virtual relay. And if you are available, we'd love you to tune in and capture and witness and be part of what's going to be a very special virtual relay for Sutherland this weekend. And that'll be still starting at the normal time. It'll go from 10 a.m. on this Sunday. So make sure that you tune in if you can. Then we have Hills coming up not so long after that. And anyone who knows James knows what he thinks of the Hills Relay for Life. So his version and their team's version of their relay are going to see some fantastic things introduced of their relay. It is going to be of a shortened format also. But some of the things that they've got is Janelle Bloom from Ready Steady Cook is going to do a baking feature, and it's going to cook a cake for their survivors and carers for an afternoon tea. You know, that alone is going to be great for us to witness and maybe steal a recipe or two. And maybe we can, do that after they've had their relay. They're going to have an online Zumba class. So yeah, Zumba will get everyone active. It'll be a great opportunity again for everyone to be part of that. And then the other big ticket item is a dog agility feature, which they normally do on a Sunday morning. So they want to do a demonstration of that again. So some great things that are coming out of virtual relays. We do look forward to taking our learnings and looking at virtual relays in more detail. Hopefully that from our findings from those relays that are happening and from Corowa, we hope that we'll be able to share them with you and we'll be able to look at this new norm that we've now been forced to include in our day-to-day, especially around our relays. Some of these things may stick around, and it might be an opportunity for us to look at how, after this pandemic, and as we go to our normal way of life again, we might be able to continue to have definitely some of our key components of relay showcased to a virtual world, and that way our relays continue to have an impact broader than their own communities and also broader than our state. So a fantastic opportunity has come from that, and we hope that from there we can just see this grow. Some other things that we'd like everyone to consider is Relay for Life, Relay Your Way. That's where we're putting out to you as relayers who are passionate, driven and connected with our amazing event to look at different ways that you can still continue to engage with your people across your relay platforms and make sure that relay still remains alive and active. There are so many things that can be done that you can participate in, and we'd love to see those ideas come into fruition. Things like having laps around your lounge room and inviting people to join you on a Zoom call and doing some laps around your lounge room. Other things, your front yard, your street. There's so many different innovations that are available out there for you to relay your way. We used to do a lot of face-to-face fundraisings in the form of trivia nights, shopping centre activations and barbecues at, say, Bunnings. These things, unfortunately, we're not at this climate not able to do, but there's no reason why you as participants of our relay and leaders of our relay, because you are so passionate, can't just get together online and maybe have a trivia night, maybe have some virtual auctions or raffles. Those are the things that are little ideas that spring to mind now, but I'm sure all of you out there listening would have some really great initiatives. Throw them in the online chat or reach out to your staff partner or your community chair to see if we can get and share some fantastic ideas on how we relay your way. The sky's the limit, and we want everyone to explore those new opportunities and everyone to make sure that we can continue to engage with our people across our relay communities. Survivors and carers, James mentioned that in his introduction, and we all know how important our survivors and carers are. This is an opportunity for us to make sure, and it's even more important with COVID, make sure that they realise just how important they are to us and how much of VIPs they are to our relays and to our communities. We do a fantastic job every year and every relay that we put together. They are our focus and our shining light. And we need to make sure that during this time, we continue to make them feel just as special and feel just as important, because as we all know, they are the reason why we relay. So please make sure that you take this opportunity to reach out to them, share with them that the Cancer Council and your relay community are still there for them and happy to support them and make them feel that little bit of extra love and feel special in this time of need. Team support. Our teams are, very important to every relay, and without them, we don't get the reach that we would get if we didn't have as many teams and as many team captains that are leaders and are driving the engagement of our relay. So we would like as well us to make sure that we remind all our team captains how important they are to us. Do some welfare check-ins with them. Make sure that you have a bit of a call and a chat and a wellness call. And it's not for anything other than to let them know that we're still here and to share your initiatives on about relaying your way. They may be able to reflect and share some ideas with you that may also improve our engagement across our relay communities. Every relay community, as we know, is different. So all team captains that are engaged in those communities and are on the ground will realise just how important it is to remain engaged and the things that will definitely resonate with their communities. So let's all continue to reach out and engage and keep them involved in our ideas as we move forward. We want them to brainstorm as many ideas as they can and feel that they are still available for us so that we can continue to engage with our relay communities. So over the next few months, we hope that you'll be able to connect, support, and innovate. They're the few things that we would love you to take away from my little segment today. I shared a few ideas with you, but they're just the start. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much potential. And in the face of something that has has caused so much upheaval across the world, we can see this as an opportunity for us in our relay communities to continue to drive Relay for Life in our communities and continue to make a difference and be there for the people in our communities moving forward after this. There's plenty of Facebook groups, online catch-up opportunities, and even just to reach out to staff partners and committees. That's just a start on what we can do as leaders of our relays to make sure that the momentum of our relays continues the way it always has. I'm going to hand over to Rory Alcock now, who's our director, and he's going to share with you some answers to some questions that we received, and he'll work through those questions with you all. And I'll hand over to Rory now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Grant. Thank you also, James, Natalia and Rashmi, for setting up the call and some really, really great points that you've made. Natalia's instructed me that it's really annoying when people say next slide. So if you notice some kind of odd, hand gestures or whatever, that's me indicating to Natalia that we'll be moving on to the next question. So you ready, Natalia? Okay, so what's Cancer Council New South Wales currently doing, and particularly in terms of its focus in terms of services, programs and research? Well, first of all, I just want to reiterate, if there's any concern out there, that the vast majority of our support services are operating as normal. Cancer doesn't sleep, as James said. It's really important during this difficult time. Cancer patients, we know, are a vulnerable group also in terms of COVID, that the support and information services that we have that make their journey easier and provide that support, assistance, reassurance, that we're able to continue to deliver those. Now, notwithstanding, in some cases, it's taken a little bit of pivoting in terms of how we deliver programs. So, for example, some of you may have heard about our transport to treatment program. So in many places that relied on volunteers categorized as a vulnerable group from COVID-19. So we had to look at different ways to keep those services on the road. What I'd really like to reassure you, though, is that even though demand has not really reduced, through a mixture of staff, younger volunteers, brokering relationships with community transport providers and local health districts, we've managed to meet all demand to date. And also what's really exciting is we've put a real volunteer recruitment drive out there looking for some volunteers from that aren't in high-risk groups. We've had over 130 expressions of interest. And what's really, I'm delighted to learn also is that some of our drivers that are taking a little bit of a break because they're categorized as vulnerable from COVID-19, we've kept them engaged by them being drivers' buddies to new volunteers coming on board. So that's been a real focus for us in this situation, to make sure that cancer patients and their carers and family members are able to access the support and information that they need. We've also been turning our mind a little bit, though, looking at what are some of the short and long-term impacts of COVID-19. So, we've done a bit of an analysis in terms of the sorts of calls, queries, inquiries we're getting to 13, 11, 20 in some of our support services. And what is interesting is that there are a lot of questions around, well, what does cancer and COVID-19 mean? And so that's informed the sorts of information that we're able to put out to community, whether that's through social media or other channels. It's also what we're learning is there is an increased level of anxiety, etc. And so again, that starts to guide us in terms of, okay, well, what sort of psychosocial support can we put in play, or looking at our online communities, how can we start to reassure our people about the approaches to take, etc. Also looking at things like, you would have been reading about toilet roll, I'm sure. we've been able to negotiate agreements with supermarkets for to provide vouchers, priority vouchers for cancer patients experiencing hardship. And so looking at sort of initiatives like these that will be a bit more short term during this pandemic situation, but really speak to the increased need that some people are facing. And research, of course, research, so looking at, Karen's team, the head director of cancer research, looking into starting to model what are some of the impacts that we might see on cancer as a result of COVID-19. So some of you, I'm sure, are aware that some of our screening programs have been paused, so breast screen, for example. So what might be some of the impacts of a pause on a screening program in terms of potential late presentation, etc. And then starting to model what might be some of the recovery strategies, once we sort of start to return to our new normal, whatever that is. And, I think what's really exciting about Karen's team is, we know that, her work, informs government and health system approaches that benefit all of our communities. But we also know that not only does that benefit communities here in New South Wales, but it tends to benefit communities in Australia and even globally. So that's some of the work that we're doing right now to ensure that the support and information and the work that we're doing in this current situation really speaks to the current situation. So we might look at what the next question is. So what sort of things should we be doing as an organisation to ensure our lapsed relay communities are still feeling connected? And then what will Cancer Council New South Wales be putting in place to ensure relay doesn't go into further decline post-COVID-19? Well, I think for me, look, the number one thing that kind of sets relay apart from, any other fundraiser or event is it's about connection. Like, it's not just a fundraiser or it's not just an event. Cancer can be quite a lonely experience. But relay is something which, it connects community. It connects people to a cause. It provides a safe space to celebrate and remember. And I think that is what, we have to keep at the forefront of our minds right now. I think James and Grant touched on this. People are still, are looking for connection now in many ways more than ever. And we may not be able to put on an event because of, the situation around mass gatherings, etc. But what can we do to make sure that we speak to that need, that desire for connection, within our communities, with survivors and carers? How do we make sure that they're valued, acknowledged, respected, and not forgotten at this time where, as I said, people are looking for connection now in many ways more than ever. I guess in some ways that is one of the wonderful things about this, the first in a series of webinars. So that speaks to, one way that we're looking to make sure that we're connected. And how wonderful is it that, 73, and I think it was a high a little bit earlier, 75 participants. I hope they haven't dropped off just as I started speaking. Anyway, like, we've been to many, many summits, many of us, and spoken about, well, how do we stay connected afterwards? And I'm not sure we ever really perfectly delivered on that question. But I think there are some good things that have kind of come out of this current situation, COVID-19. And I think being forced to find ways to connect with each other that don't involve face-to-face, I think these things will live on, even when we go back to whatever the new normal is. So look, as I said, I think looking at, opportunities like this for webinars, I think thinking about wellness calls, how do we make sure that we're speaking to our survivors and carers, our key sponsors, making sure that they're not forgotten, that they're thought of, that they're valued, looking at opportunities, and Kate's going to talk a little bit later about, hope at home, or offering relay in a virtual way. These are all the sorts of things I think, how do we stay connected, and thinking about all the avenues available to us. And I guess in some ways I've kind of started to answer that second part of the question, is if we don't forget, one of the, that thing that people are looking for from relay, that sense of connection, and we really, think about how we can keep our relay community connected and look at all the different avenues for that, I think that sets us up very well for post-COVID-19. People will remember that we took the time to let them know how we value them, how we care for them, how we want to stay connected. And my view is that really sets us up well for a post-COVID-19, and potentially it sets us up to really grow and move on forward in different ways. And so I might take the next question, which is, where do I see Relay for Life in the next 5 years? Well, nothing like a bit of crystal ball gazing. So look, the way I think where I see Relay for Life, I see it going from strength to strength. Look, relayers are, they're a different breed to most supporters of Cancer Council, and I mean that in a good way. Relayers, more than any other supporter, they're more likely to get engaged in multiple ways. We know that people who get involved with Relay are more likely to take on different volunteer roles with Cancer Council. We know that they're more likely to fundraise and donate in different ways. We know that they're more likely to give that ultimate gift, a gift in their will also. Relayers, for that reason, are so important to Cancer Council, because they're not just relayers, they're really in it for their community and for their cause. And so Relay for Life absolutely will be here and stronger in 5 years, and I've no qualms about saying that. I spoke a little bit in terms of that next question. I actually think that this situation, this COVID-19 situation, if we don't lose sight of the importance and the need to stay connected, to keep our supporters connected, our team captains, our participants, our sponsors, our survivors and carers, and we take forward, some of the innovations that we're having to come up with right now. I see Relay as many, if not more, physical events in the traditional sense, but I also see a larger Relay community, and that might be that our biennial and triennial events, in their off years, they host a virtual relay or a Hope at Home. It might be that for some of our smaller communities, whereby a traditional event seems a big and overwhelming step forward, that some of these innovations are the first step towards that. I firmly believe that Relay will go from strength to strength, and I think that we will come out of this situation in a stronger place, and I'm looking forward to the next 5 years. So what do I see as the most successful elements of Relay statewide, and what elements of Relay do you think need revitalizing as a state? For me, the most successful relays are those relays that have Celebrate, Remember, Fight Back at their core, and they never forget that. It's those relays that, they know that our survivors and carers, and that connection piece, that people are looking for, that connection to community and each other. When they hold that tight and they never forget, we've got a strong relay. And I think, I think there's a later question that talks about fresh and innovative ideas. I think that absolutely we always want to be having a look at what can we do differently, and different activities and different sorts of entertainment and ways of engaging with people. But it's the core, that Celebrate, Remember, Fight Back, our survivors and carers, our hope ceremonies, that are what make the successful elements of Relay statewide. Always has been, always will be, in my view. And I think, that's what we need to make sure that we always take forward, we never forget, because that is the foundation of a strong relay. I'll go for the next question. So other new events like STARS, Dance for Cancer, are proving to be very popular. Is Relay for Life still important to the Cancer Council? Well, I hope I've persuaded you that Relay for Life is very important to Cancer Council. So other new events like STARS, well, to be honest, STARS and Relay, totally different events. You know, different markets, and you know, look, a relayer is somebody who tends to stay engaged with Cancer Council and the cause and community for much longer than the average supporter, and in many different ways. Our STARS market, you know, while successful fundraisers, as a standalone event, we don't see the same level of engagement in terms of length and breadth of support. And so absolutely there's a place for a STARS, and in some communities they're big enough to be able to you know, host both events, but very, very different beasts. And Relay for Life, absolutely very important to Cancer Council. All right. So how can we keep Relay for Life fresh and innovative? Well, innovation comes from all of us, and I guess, you know, one of the huge advantages for an organization like Cancer Council and a movement like Relay for Life, a global movement like Relay for Life, is there are so many people involved. And so the opportunity to generate new ideas is almost unsurpassed, I think, for any comparable event. I think the challenge for us is, how do we make sure that we're circulating, that we're sharing those great ideas that come up, and how do we foster those? And I guess that's what one of the things that's really exciting about this first webinar is, you know, this is a way outside of Summit or outside of a planning meeting in an individual committee meeting to start to share some of those fresh and innovative ideas. This in itself is an innovation. You know, the virtual relay, Go Korowa, is an innovation also. Hope at Home, which Kate's going to be talking about, is innovation. And I think, you know, I think the really important thing for us is, now we've started to look at how we can share things in a much more real-time, interactive way. You know, we've got to make sure that we take up this gauntlet and we keep going with it. We don't think that this is just something that we do during COVID-19. There's great ideas out there. We've just got to share them. So we'd like to know more about the impact we're having. Can you tell us more about how much relay events have raised in New South Wales and the impact the money we have raised is having? So 19 years, so heading into the 20th year, next financial year, Relay's been going in New South Wales. Around 87 million. That's 87 million. So we're talking huge money raised through Relay for Life in that time. So what's some of the impact that money has raised? Well, an example would be from a research perspective, you know, the global eradication of cervical cancer, and Australia is likely to be the first country. Okay, so Cancer Council, we probably should acknowledge Cancer Council Queensland. You know, they provided funding that led to the HPV vaccine. So you know, that found out the HPV vaccine. But then it's Karen's team, our Director of Cancer Research here in Cancer Council New South Wales, that has been doing the modelling that informs the screening programs here in Australia and globally, and, you know, is part of a global movement for the global eradication of cervical cancer. So what does that mean? That means that you can look around your community and know that your daughters, your granddaughters, your nieces, you know, will not get cervical cancer. And you've been a part of that. And not only do you know that it's your daughters, your granddaughters, but you know that that's right across the world. And that's pretty big. That's pretty big. Bowel cancer. So there's here, bowel cancer is an example where advocacy and research came together. So the National the National Bowel Cancer Screening Program. I mean, James is smiling. This is going back to my advocacy days, James. You know, but originally that program was not evidence-based. You know, the people who needed to be part of that screening program were not necessarily part of it. And so it was, again, Karen's team was very influential in terms of the modeling and showing who were the people that needed to be involved in that screening program to have the maximum impact in terms of detecting bowel cancer early and reducing deaths from bowel cancer. And it was her research and then a national effort, you know, that persuaded the Australian government to implement a bowel cancer screening program that is evidence-based and has the maximum possible chance of saving lives. Now, unfortunately, our work still isn't done there. Unfortunately, the uptake of the screening program is lower than we'd like. And so we all have a role to make sure that we're encouraging, you know, whether it's ourselves, partners, loved ones, that we're encouraging people to do that test when they get it through the post. A few more advocacy wins. Well, chemotherapy co-payments. So for a period of time in New South Wales, we were the only state and territory that had a co-payment on chemotherapy. And so through advocacy efforts, we persuaded the New South Wales government to drop that. And you know, that's really important. We know that when people are going through a cancer journey, that their income is hit often, and you know, their finances are hit, and things are tight. And so every little bit helps. And so that was a win here in Cancer Council New South Wales. And as all of you know as well, Relay for Life events are great events for engaging the wider community in terms of persuading government to take the right actions and the right decisions. And then, of course, as many of you would know, you know, the raft of support services and information that is needed for people going through cancer, and indeed their carers and family members also. So whether it's 13, 11, 20, being able to respond to questions, queries, concerns, be signposted to the right services, whether it's actually ensuring that people get to treatment. So we're through our transport services, through accommodation, or whether it's through financial assistance to help people with bills and whatnot. Those raft of support services are a real lifeline for, you know, people going through that cancer journey. And so that's just a little bit of a snapshot on some of the things, some of the impact that Relay has brought about. So I'd just like to thank you all. And I think that was Natalia's subtle way of saying, time's up, hand over to Kate.
Thank you, Rory. It's good to be here, everybody. Thanks for having me. Today I'm here to talk to you regarding Hope at Home, a new initiative that we've introduced in the last 5 weeks or so. I'm logging in from the Northern Rivers, so right up in the very north of the state. And I've noticed that there's a few Northerners on here as well, so thank you and hello. But thank you to everyone for logging on to this session. It just shows your passion for Relay, so thank you very much. So Hope at Home. Hope at Home takes the Hope ceremony from Relay into people's homes. And last year I was lucky enough to attend the National Relay for Life Summit at Magenta Shores. It was a really great event. The highlight for me was James Butler leading the Hope ceremony at the dinner. It was so touching. There were lots of tears in the room. It was very powerful, and we're all on a united front for cancer patients and those that we've lost along the way. So soon after that event, we went back to our offices, and I was back in the Byron Bay office, and we were asked to get involved in an innovation pitch tank that community engagement ran in about August last year. And the thought popped into my brain of why can't we take Hope at Home to the masses and introduce it to people at home or to people that can't make it to Relay. So I presented it at the pitch tank, and it tracked very well with all the team members in community engagement. But it wasn't until COVID hit at the start of this year that in the Byron Bay office, we were having a brainstorming session about what we can do to engage people and keep people with us, with Cancer Council, and keep raising money, that we revisited Hope at Home. And it's perfect timing. We're all in our homes now because of COVID-19. So our main thought was to really use it to promote at our Lismore and Grafton relays, which unfortunately were cancelled. One was 2 weeks out and one was 3 weeks out. So we were gaining the momentum and the work behind it to introduce Hope at Home at those events. But then it did grow legs. Other people expressed an interest. We got our campaigns team involved, and we had a lot of support from around the state. So that's sort of how it came about. We then very quickly set up its webpage. We developed all the collateral for it. And that included things like media releases, organising the payment at the back end of the webpage. And the whole thing was turned around in about a week, which is record time for a new campaign. And we thought we needed record time back then, because when we think back to the early days of COVID, no one knew what was happening, and we still don't really know. There's lots of unknowns in this time, but we were passionate about making it a thing that we can do during lockdown, but also during the time where cancer patients still have to go to their appointments and they're more vulnerable than others. So we were determined to make it an April event, and that's when the date was set. So the date was set for Wednesday the 29th of April, which is in 2 nights. So all the CRCs backed it. We asked, in fact, every team member in community engagement to get involved. So not just CRCs, but also our programs coordinators, our volunteer coordinators, and our administrators. They've all been promoting it to our relayers, our stars, and our key stakeholders. It's important to note, though, that a couple of big relays we haven't promoted it to, Sutherland and Hills, because they're doing the virtual relays and we didn't want mixed messaging. We want to respect those relays and what they're doing and how hard they're working for those events. So it's gone across the state. The other thing the CRCs have had to do is to send out the kits, and in many cases, our teams are driving patients around, as you heard from Rory. Our transport to treatment is extremely busy. So we've actually been delivering kits to people's address, letterboxes, contactless, of course. And interestingly enough, a lot of the people that have purchased Hope at Home bags are actually new to Cancer Council. So they're actually not relayers, they're not stars or former stars, and they're not volunteers. We have a whole new database of newly engaged supporters, and as a team we will go to them in the future and invite them to come to our real relays, and invite them to other campaigns as well, but particularly relays, so they can do a real Hope ceremony too. So from when it went live, which is about 4 weeks ago to date, we've sold 414 bags online. We're charging $25. It is asked as a donation to Cancer Council. And so far it has raised just over $16,000 in about 4 weeks. We're really happy with this. We would have loved it to be higher, but these are tough times and every dollar counts. So we're really pleased that the innovation was developed so quickly. And the good thing about this, like everything to do with COVID, is that we're all learning about what works and what doesn't, and what's challenging and what's quite easy to do. So a lot of the word on the street is that it's something that we would like to do year on year, away from relay season, so it doesn't confuse with any relays. We'd invite relays to do it anyway, but we might pick a date, for example, in June each year when it's winter and people are at home at night. The good news for everyone online, if you haven't done so already, it's not too late for you to get involved. The web page is still open. I think it's appearing in the chat line, but it's give.cancercouncil.com.au/hope at home. I would encourage you to jump on. I would really encourage you to check out the sentiments on the Wall of Hope part of the web page. It's just beautiful. It's people leaving their notes. So just like we all do our Hope bags for relay, it's people leaving those messages on our Wall of Hope. So that's one for my father that I did. But yeah, the Wall of Hope is the virtual version of that, and there's some really lovely messages on there. So yeah, if you haven't done so already, you can certainly jump on and get involved. We're all taking our Hope bags out onto our front porches, in our front windows. The idea is to do it 6 p.m. Wednesday the 29th of April, so that's 2 nights away. Obviously, we can't get the Hope bags to you now, but some of you being relays might have 1 or 2 at home. But if you don't, we have a really great do-it-yourself option. So we would encourage you to find something, whether it's a paper bag or a half milk carton, to make your own Hope bag, without naked flames, of course, because we don't want anybody burning their house down as part of this. So just be very careful with what you choose. But Nat's actually got a do-it-yourself video that we put together to show you how you can get involved in this, and then I'll come back and have a chat to you again. Thanks, Nat. Great, thank you. I'm sure you'll agree it's a really lovely concept that we do at our relays, and it's a great way to take it to people's homes right now when they're at home. If you do get involved, we'd love you to use the hashtag #StayHomeForCancer and upload your photos to that, and hopefully we can fill that page with the Hope at Home ceremony on Wednesday night this week. Before I sign off, I'd just like to say thank you to all the CRCs and all the community engagement team members who've supported Hope at Home. We would love to do it again. We would love to make it a bigger and better event with an 8-week lead time, which would be best. But most importantly, it's a really special thing that shows our united front for survivors and carers and those that we've lost along the way. Thank you very much. I'd now like to hand back to James to close today's meeting. Thank you, James.
How great that was. I've been to many, many things over the years, and as a volunteer with Cancer Council, and when it comes to relay, I just get very passionate. And having seen what we've been able to do today, or what all of you stars have been able to do today, when we can't have our relay, it's just so exciting, and it makes me feel so confident about the future of relay. So thank you everyone for joining us for our very first Relay for Life webinar. I hope you enjoyed it and had some questions answered for you. Our next webinar will be held in May. We would like you to send any further questions to the address that you'll see on the bottom of your picture. Just a reminder that this has been a recorded webinar, and the link will be available after this session. Thank you again, everyone involved. I look forward to catching up again in May. Thank you.